Superheroes are everywhere, man! From the comic books we grew up with to the blockbuster movies that dominate the box office, they're an integral part of our culture. Big screen, streaming, even your grandma's got opinions on Batman. It's like you can't escape them, and honestly, why would you want to? But lately, there's this hunger for something different, something that breaks the mold. People are craving stories that go beyond the typical good versus evil narrative. They want complexity, they want depth, they want something that makes them think. Enter The Boys, a show that throws a Molotov cocktail at our cozy superhero fantasies. It's not just another superhero show, it's a game changer. Blood splatters, people freak out, it's a wild ride. But it's not just about the shock value. There's a method to the madness. But beneath the shock value, The Boys is smart. It's a satirical take on the superhero genre, dissecting the very concept of heroism. It digs deep into what happens when power corrupts. And it ain't pretty. The show explores the dark side of having superpowers, the moral ambiguities, and the ethical dilemmas.
See, the Boys didn't just pop out of nowhere. It's part of a larger tradition of deconstructing the superhero mythos. It's got roots, man, deep ones. It draws inspiration from a rich history of comics that dared to question the status quo. It draws from these legendary comics that were already busting superhero tropes wide open. These stories were the pioneers, setting the stage for what was to come. We're talking Squadron Supreme by Mark Gruenwald, a wild ride where heroes become the problem. It was one of the first to show that heroes could be flawed, even dangerous. And then there's Watchmen by Alan Moore, dark and gritty, showing us the humans behind the masks. It peeled back the layers to reveal the vulnerabilities and imperfections of its characters. These books weren't afraid to get real, to show the flaws and the fallout of superpowers. They asked the tough questions and didn't shy away from the answers. And that's the key, right? The Boys taps into that same vein. It continues the tradition of challenging what we think we know about superheroes. It ain't afraid to show what happens when capes and costumes meet real-world greed and ambition. It brings the fantastical into the realm of the real, making us question our own world. This ain't your childhood superhero story. This is the hangover afterwards. It's the gritty, unfiltered reality that comes after the fantasy, and it's here to stay. Now, Squadron Supreme was wild, man. It was like nothing you'd ever seen before in the superhero genre. Imagine the Justice League, right? But instead of just fighting bad guys, they decide to fix the entire world. They take on the biggest issues humanity faces. We're talking about ending wars, eradicating poverty, and even tackling those pesky bad air days. They had the power, the resources, and the will to make it happen. Sounds noble, yeah? But it gets messy fast. When you try to control everything, things can spiral out of control.
See, these heroes, they meant well. They were like, we got the power, let's use it to make the world a better place. But they forgot one crucial thing, free will. People got to make their own choices, even dumb ones. You can't just impose your vision of good on everyone. But they forgot one crucial thing, free will. People got to make their own choices, even dumb ones. You can't just impose your vision of good on everyone. It's a fundamental part of being human. The Squadron, they started forcing their idea of good on everyone. And that's when things went sideways. People resisted, chaos ensued, and the heroes found themselves in a moral quagmire. Squadron Supreme showed us that even with the best intentions, absolute power is a recipe for disaster. It's a cautionary tale about the limits of power and the importance of humility. Turns out even superheroes can become the villains of their own story. Heavy stuff, man. It makes you question the very nature of heroism and power. Makes you think twice about who's really saving the day, you know? Sometimes the true heroes are the ones who understand the value of letting people find their own way.
Now, Watchmen was a whole different beast. It wasn't just another superhero comic, it was a groundbreaking piece of literature that redefined the genre. This was dark, man, really dark. It wasn't afraid to delve into the murky waters of human nature and societal issues. It was a comic that made you think, made you question everything you thought you knew about heroes. This comic dove headfirst into the psyches of these broken, flawed heroes. It explored their deepest fears, their darkest secrets, and their most haunting regrets. It asked the tough questions. What makes a hero tick? What drives someone to put on a mask and fight for justice? What happens when their ideals collide with reality? When the black and white world of good and evil turns into shades of gray?
We're talking about characters like Rorschach, a dude so obsessed with justice he becomes a monster. His black and white view of morality leads him down a dark path. And then there's Dr. Manhattan, a guy who becomes so powerful he loses touch with humanity. His godlike abilities make him question the very essence of existence. These weren't your typical spandex-wearing do-gooders. They were complex, multi-dimensional characters with real flaws and vulnerabilities. These were complex characters grappling with real-world issues like trauma, corruption, and the fear of annihilation. They faced the same struggles and dilemmas that we do.
Watchmen ripped the mask off superhero comics and showed us the humanity, warts and all, underneath. It revealed the raw, unfiltered truth about what it means to be a hero. It proved that comics could be more than just escapism. They could be a powerful medium for exploring complex themes and challenging societal norms. They could be a reflection of our own anxieties, our darkest fears about the world. Watchmen showed us that heroes are not infallible. They are as human as the rest of us.
Section 4, the boys inheriting the Cynical Mantle. So how do Squadron Supreme and Watchmen connect to the boys? It's all about the DNA, man.
The Boys takes that cynical edge, that willingness to deconstruct the superhero myth and cranks it up to 11. Remember Homelander, that Superman gone bad? He's like a twisted reflection of Squadron Supreme's idealism, a guy with godlike power who's also a total sociopath. And then you got the Deep, a pathetic Aquaman stand-in, more worried about his public image than saving the ocean.
The Boys takes the themes of corruption and abuse of power that were present in those earlier works and throws them right in our faces. It's a brutal, often hilarious takedown of celebrity worship and the dangers of unchecked power.
Section 5, VOTS, America reflecting our reality. What makes The Boys really hit home is its satire, man. VOT International, the corporation that owns these superheroes. They're like a dark mirror of our own media-obsessed, profit-driven world. Think about it, superheroes used as marketing tools, their images plastered on everything from soda cans to fighter jets. Sound familiar?
It's a commentary on how corporations manipulate our desires, how we're bombarded with images of perfection that are ultimately empty and meaningless. The Boys forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth about our own world. We're all suckers for a good story, even if it's sold to us by the very people who are screwing us over.
Section 6, Beyond the Gore, The Boys' social commentary. Now, I know what you're thinking. Kevin, isn't The Boys just a bunch of blood and guts? Yeah, it's got plenty of that. But underneath the gore, there's some serious social commentary going on.
We see it in the way corporations exploit their workers, even the superpowered ones. We see it in the way the media manipulates public opinion, turning a blind eye to the truth. And we see it in the way power corrupts, turning even the most well-intentioned individuals into monsters.
The Boys ain't afraid to get political, and that's what makes it so damn relevant. It holds a mirror up to our own messed up world and says, hey, this is what's going on. Are you paying attention? Section 7, The Power of Deconstruction, Why The Boys Works. So why does The Boys work so well? Because it's not afraid to tear down the things we hold sacred, man. It takes the superhero genre, something we usually associate with hope and heroism, and shows us its dark underbelly.
Deconstruction, that's the key word. It's about taking something apart and examining its pieces, seeing how it ticks. And that's what The Boys does brilliantly. It takes the superhero myth and exposes its flaws, its contradictions, its potential for abuse.
And in doing so, it creates something new and exciting. It's a superhero story for a cynical age. A story that reflects our own anxieties and frustrations with the world.